Our next speaker is Dr. David Seaman. His scientific articles about pain, inflammation, and nutrition have been referenced by scientists all around the world, including Harvard Medical School. Today, he's going to show us how chronic inflammation is the enemy of personal and business success and what you can do about it. So please help me welcome to the stage Dr. David Seaman.
Thank you, Nick. Hi, everybody. So as you can see on this first slide, my website name is deflame.com, and that's because the enemy of humanity is chronic inflammation. Now, my approach to it is nutrition, but there's lots of ways, and I'll show those to you as we move through as well. So these are the first 3 books I've written, and the one coming soon will be about musculoskeletal health. Earlier this year, in Jack Canfield's book, Recipe for Success, my co-author, Dr. Rose, who's in the audience, we wrote this chapter, and it turns out, of course, that the opioid crisis, what drives it is chronic inflammation as well. So I'm going to take you through how this works. And it's pretty straightforward, and as Nick mentioned in the introduction, the papers that I wrote to basically kind of like inform me as to write this for the general public were 4 articles, and they have been cited by scientists all around the world. But for me, it's a very, very simple approach. From the dietary perspective, now whenever anyone looks at this picture, they get a little freaked out because they think, I can never eat that again, and of course the answer is, of course you can. You just got to be careful, and I'll show you the best way to look at it. So a lot of people, when you all heard the term, keep it simple, stupid, and that kind of stuff, I hate that. You know, dumb it down. I'm like, you should speak to your audience. So this is the back of my Deflame diet book, and here's me showing it to 3rd graders. And you can see they're interested. So we can give our message, no matter what it is, at many different levels if we use the right language. So if you decide to deflame yourself and live into your 80s and 90s, you might be like my father. We made us a little bit nervous, by the way, because this was my 83-year-old father getting ready for the hurricane that just rolled through up the East Coast. Now, not many 83-year-olds can climb up ladders like that. Right? Lots of them are going through Sam's Club on their scooters, loading up their sleds with potato chips and everything else. Right? You've seen these people. Not very good. So 58 years earlier, I was trying to explain something to my father. This was in 1962. And apparently I had a point. I'm not sure what it was. But 2 to 3 years later, a really famous movie came out and gave to the world the longest word like ever. Anyone know what it is? Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, right? So if a 5-year-old can learn that word, right, then a room full of teenagers and people like yourselves and just the average, even the layman who's doing construction work can learn a new word if they can learn this one. So this is the word that we're going to learn today. It's called cytokines. Now, when people look at this picture, they tend to look at the bottom and say, look at all these structures. Very confusing. Forget the structures. Only molecular. Don't take a picture of that. Take a picture of this. There you go. So cytokines represent the flame. So would you mind participating? I'm going to do a little group participation. Would you mind? Would it be okay? So on the count of 3, I want you all to say cytokines. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Cytokines. Do it again. 1, 2, 3. Okay. What causes osteoporosis? What causes osteoarthritis? What causes diabetes? What causes cancer? Right. So brand new. How many knew the word cytokines before today? A couple? All right. A lot don't. And they think, well, it's a brand new word. I can't learn it, but it's really easy. So one word, and this is just part of the inflammatory cascade that goes on, but let me just show you all the different diseases that have been linked to it. So here you can see mental stress increases cytokines. Depression, cytokines. Autism, cytokines. Disc degeneration, disc herniation, cytokines. Osteoarthritis, cytokines. Osteoporosis, cytokines. Rheumatoid arthritis, cytokines. Hypertension, cytokines. Diabetes, cytokines. How about this one? Sarcopenia, what's that? That is muscle loss, particularly as you age. What causes it? Well, cytokines do as well. So if you are old, if you are, say, 65 or old, and you decide to exercise, you can increase muscle mass, and exercise reduces cytokines, and it allows you to sleep better. So cytokines are the enemy, absolutely the enemy. Dietary and anti-inflammatory diet reduces cytokines. So you can see everything is cytokines. And when you take magnesium, it's lower cytokines. Omega-3 fatty acids, lower cytokines. Vitamin D, lower cytokines. So when you look at the back of my book, you see this, you see all these different conditions. Now when I talk to the third graders, they go, what's infertility? I said, it's an old person's problem. So the enemy that we all suffer from before any of those other things kick in is typically chronic pain and depression. And if you have people who have any of these conditions or any more, you need to be thinking cytokines. That is the problem. So here is how we develop them. Now the average person, of course, when you're starting out, you don't want to be focusing on the enemy and chronic pain and depression and anxiety. It's miserable, so we'll make that go away. And then we have these foods. If you eat these foods too much, the flame goes on. If you decide to stress, which everyone does, the flame increases. When you're young, it makes no difference. When you're young and you're flaming, a little bit, it makes no difference. You could even hop on a bicycle with one of your friends and pedal from New Jersey to Florida and eat fast food along the way and only feel fine because you're just young and strong and healthy, right? So, but the problem is, as time goes on, sedentary living, deconditioning, the flame increases. Average male or female. Average female typically starts to flame up big time, late 20s. Guys, early 30s, unless one is really devoted to these behaviors. If you're really devoted, you can fall apart when you're in high school. It's absolutely miserable. So this is when the enemy starts to appear, and when we talk about the opioid crisis, these are the factors that drive it. Those who have mental distress are much more likely to become addicted to all kinds of stuff. So as time goes on, we lose sleep, and you all do it. The flame goes on. The flame continues. We're still flaming. Excess alcohol, not moderate, excess alcohol. Smoking, flame arises more. You can be genetically pre-flamed. And they actually have a word for it. They're called inflammaging. Anyone ever hear this? Inflammaging. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Inflammation. So everyone's going through it. So if we don't take care of these behavioral factors that we can, eventually they start to dominate your life. And then the problem is, what do I do? Because you feel helpless. So eating is really a great behavioral anchor to taking care of the rest of your life. So here is the approach that we're going to take. I call it the D-flame diet. First thing you do, not a shocker, avoid excess calories. You should weigh what you weigh when you're in high school or college, even though that's shocking for some people. In this book I wrote, published at the end of 2018, only 99 cents for the Kindle version. So it's like basically free, practically. What else should we do? Well, we should avoid empty calories. Not a surprise. Everyone knows refined sugar, flours, and oils are a disaster. Just recently, a paper was published, and it was in all the news media, and it showed, shocking, it showed this kid, age 14 to 17, all he ate was Pringles, French fries, and white bread. Guess what happened to him? The dude went blind. Yeah, so there's definitely a French fry, Twinkie, donut threshold we have to be careful of. Doesn't mean you can't have it, it's just that if you live on it forever, big troubles can kick in. So you just have to Google potato chip diet and blindness. Disaster. So what else should we do? Well, maximize your calories per nutrient. Whole grains, they talk about being great. They're the worst in terms of whole food. The most nutritious are vegetables, not a surprise. And your dietary options, so you can see, like, I'm not pro-vegan, pro-omnivore, most people are omnivores, but any of these approaches, you can be anti-inflammatory or you can be pro-inflammatory. And that is the purpose of this book that I wrote back in 2016. And chapter 9 is what I call the self-assessment. You can find out how flaming you are really easy. This book is a $9.99 Kindle book, so it's like cheap again, cheap, cheap, cheap. So people ask about supplements, what should I take? Well, I'm not saying you should take this, but these are the most commonly taken supplements, and they all have anti-inflammatory potential. One of the things that's interesting, because everyone knows about omega-3 fatty acids in fish oil, very good for your brain, and on and on and on. Well, it turns out that in order to have them work the best, we should probably be taking in some iodine, or at least be having enough iodine in our diet. And it turns out, my last book that I wrote was this book here. It's D-Flame Diet for Breast Health and Cancer Prevention, and it turns out that the mammary tissues, they suck up iodine like the thyroid gland. So does the prostate gland. So iodine is very, very, very protective for us. So this is really straightforward and uncomplicated. No need to complicate dietary stuff. Everyone complicates it, just very, very straightforward, just these 5 simple steps. If you like this, you can go right to my YouTube channel, Lots of different videos there, like recently, why stress makes you want to eat desserts, French fries, etc. How stress causes leaky gut syndrome. On the bottom middle there, you can see this one right here. This is about eczema. Check this out. This is creepy. Almost. There you go. So this is a 77-year-old woman. So when you think depression, you want to picture this in your brain. When you think anxiety, you think this in your brain. You just can't see it. When you have joint pain, osteoporosis, cardiovascular disease, cancer, you want to think this image in your brain. In 3 months, this 77-year-old went from here to here in 3 months. So that is what you can do to your internal system as well if you deflame yourself. Very simple, very straightforward. Click pictures away, go right ahead. And so if you want to see more of this, simple information, you can link to my YouTube channel, Facebook channel, and check out my books there. Thanks very much for your time. Appreciate it.